All right, we are live today. We keep on exploring other markets. So today we're looking at 35020. This is in Bessemer, southwest of Birmingham. Just going to look over this area since there's a little cluster of properties available for sale. So let's go take a look at this one. This one looks okay. I mean, assuming they did a good job with the flooring. What you can't tell is if there's ever a shoddy flooring job, if there's any softness in the subfloor. You can't tell, but you're going to assume that this is almost rent ready for the most part. You can't really see most of the other photos. Maybe I replaced some light fixtures. Don't really love those ones, but this one doesn't look that bad. Let's do a quick look at the street view here. I don't look that bad, actually. Okay, people actually mowing their lawn. That's not a bad sign. You always like a street where people have pride in their homes. Okay, things doesn't look that bad here. Again, Birmingham market is a very street by street type of area, so you want to be really careful. Understand that you're only going after places that you truly believe in, or you have someone that gives you some advice or feedback, whether it's a realtor or GC, etc. So, all right, let's go ahead and take a look at the fair market rents. So the first thing we want to do is look up the county, Jefferson County. So HUD FMR. You Google HUD FMR, you can go to the website and you can go right down here, access the small area FMRs, look up FY 2024 FMRs, and we're going to be pulling the rent ceiling. Rent ceiling is going to be important, 35020, and you're going to see that the rent ceiling for a 3-bedroom is $1,290. Okay, let's write that one down, $1,290. And then you're going to see that the rent ceiling for 4-bedroom is $1,440. I always get the rent for an additional bedroom just to see how much lift there is in the rents. Now it's actually $150. So, and this one I didn't really see a garage. We saw a storage shed, so that doesn't seem to be like an easy conversion or anything like that if it was an attached garage. So I might keep it as is for now as a 3-bedroom, but let me get the rents for a 3-bedroom. So the next thing you want to get is the market rents. By going to affordablehousing.com, go to owner section, go to market rent estimator, you're going to start pulling up a few numbers. The number you care most about here is the number here on the far right, where it says for 25 units within a 0.66 mile radius, the average rent is $1,107. So we wrote that one here. Now, even though the rent ceiling says $1,290, I would underwrite this property probably closer to $1,107 or maybe $1,150, $1,175. Right? Because of the rent reasonableness test. The rent reasonableness test essentially states that you cannot charge more rent to your unit compared to an unassisted unit, which also means you can charge more rent to your tenant simply because they are a housing choice voucher holder, also known as the Section 8 program. So the 4-bedroom, it goes up to $1,330. So you might get a slightly higher lift from $1,100 to $1,300. So there's almost a $200 lift when you compare to market rent. So the lift in the market side is actually a lot higher than your rent ceiling. So something for you to keep in mind in case you do find other properties here where you can easily convert or have a better opportunity converting from a 3-bedroom to a 4-bedroom. But today we're going to be underwriting this property as $1,150. Okay. Now, for this property, it looks pretty much rent ready for the most part. I'm just going to set aside a little bit of money just in case there's something that we can't see in the photos. So I'm going to assume that a water heater is there that's working. I'm going to assume that I'm going to replace the toilet with a high-pressure flush toilet. I do not need to remodel any more of the bathrooms. I do not need to paint any of the cabinets. Do not need to do any painting. Do not do any flooring. We'll probably want to buy some appliances. So let me get in a refrigerator in there. Was there a hood in there? Let's see. No refrigerator. There's a stove here. Okay, so I'm going to put there, at least get a refrigerator in there at the minimum. Okay, and then I'm going to put aside a little bit of money for landscaping to keep the outdoor clean while we're while we're looking for a tenant to put into the property, I'm gonna set aside $1,500 for the roof repair just in case anything happens. Okay, now that results in a total rehab of roughly around $4,300. So that's not bad, right? All right, now I'm gonna put in my purchase price here. My purchase price is $99,500. $99,500. And I'm gonna assume that I'm gonna get a 25% DSCR loan on this thing. And just remember, sometimes lenders might not even do a loan less than 100 grand. So make sure you do have lenders that will provide a loan product for that amount. Okay. All right, 25% down. I'm gonna assume it's roughly 8.4% interest rate, which is what I've heard from other folks in the past that just recently refinanced their properties into a 75% DSCR loan. Okay. Now, for this property, let's get some numbers here. $50 for property taxes and $77. $50 for property taxes and $77 for insurance. And I'm always going to add a little bit more for insurance. That's 1.3 because usually that estimate is for a primary residence property. So up to $100 at the bare minimum. Okay. 10% for my maintenance. I got 10% for my property management and 5% for my vacancy, just in case, just because I don't really know this area yet. So at least a 5% vacancy makes a little bit of sense. All right. If this is true and I'm able to rent this property out for $1,150 based on the market rents that I saw, which technically be $1,100, I would go $1,125 just to make it a little bit more reasonable because it jumps the numbers tremendously. All right. So put 25% down. Boom, that's a purchase price times your 25%. And then over here, I got my finance amount, which is my asking price minus the down payment. So as is right now, with all the numbers that I put in, this property would essentially cash flow. Let's keep it as 3-bedroom at $1,125. This property would cash flow $126, and that would be a 4.8% cash and cash return. Assuming I'm just gonna put 100 grand just to keep things super simple here. $4,500 rehab. All right. Now, if I want to get at least a 10% cash and cash return here, we're gonna mess around with this purchase price so you guys can see what it does to the cash and cash return. Right now it says 4.8%. Let me just zoom in a little bit here so you guys can see a little bit better. If I turn this property from 100 grand to $80,000, boom, it's now a 10.8% return. So I might say, hey, if I assume that I can get my rents at $1,125, I would be cash flowing now $237, and my cash and cash return will be 10.8%, assuming I bought this property for $80,000. And that is how you determine your buy boxes, right? You play around with these scenarios and you try to figure out, okay, what purchase price would I make? Would this become a deal, quote unquote, right? Assuming your rehab is still $4,500, you're still putting in 25% down, and you got an 8.375% interest rate. Okay. Now, let's say someone did a really shoddy job of renovating this property. After you walk it, after you renovate it, after you walk it with a contract and give you the big, oh my God, the floor was terrible. The light fixture is going to cost a lot more money. So let's take this property and let's double the renovation budget. So let's multiply this by 2. So now all of a sudden it's $87.60, right? So you're thinking like, oh my God, is this still a deal? Like what's going on here? What if all of a sudden you got to do like a big HVAC? Or what if there's extra $10,000? So let's say there's extra $10,000. See what this did to this cash and cash return? It went down from 10.8 to 7.8. So let's say you do have to pay $10,000 more in rehab, right? It's just a numbers game. Don't get emotional. Well, now you might go back to the seller and say, well, what if I gave you $70,000 instead? So $10,000 reduction in purchase price, but I'm paying $10,000 more out of my own pocket. The down payment goes down, sure, but then some of that savings goes into the renovations. So now I might go back to the seller and say, okay, assuming I'm still getting $1,125 rent, right? That's still the constant here. Just keep these constant, not highlighting them. I'm still cash flowing $295, and my cash and cash return will still be 10.5%. So if if your return criteria is 10% cash on cash return, you can still get it as a deal. It'll still be a deal, quote unquote, to you, assuming your rehab was 14,400 if you buy this property for 70 grand. So we went through this entire exercise to do what? We went through this entire exercise so that you can figure out, hey, for every property, there is a price or a set of terms that would make this a deal. Okay? That is the lesson that we want to take away from this. You have to decide whether or not it's worth you setting out a contractor and saying, hey, is this really worth it? You might talk to the agent and say, hey, I know you got listed for 100 grand. Are they going to take any offers at 80? And if the agent says, no, don't even waste your time, then you know not to send a contractor out there. But if this deal has been on the market for quite a little while and you frankly just want to shoot the shot, then okay, send them an offer because they're obligated to show the seller. How long has this property been on the market for? This property has only been on the market for 73 days. It's been there for a while. Have they been dropping prices? Let's see. Been active for 3 months. So no takers. So they might go for it, right? You never know. The other way to go about it is you can potentially try and see whether or not you can do a creative finance deal on it. And maybe they actually would listen to you. So let's go ahead and try to log in really quick. And what I'm doing right now is I am figuring out whether or not there is an underlying loan in place, because if there is an underlying loan in place, maybe you can take it over subject to the existing financing. I kind of doubt it because the purchase price is so low, but it can never hurt to check out. So if you go to PropStream, put in the address, click on the detail section, click on the mortgage and transaction history, you can see that it's all owned free and clear. Okay, so if it's owned free and clear, now all of a sudden you can also figure out, well, what can I offer if the seller was to seller finance it, right? So let's go back. Let's say, hey, Mr. Seller, I can give you the price that you're looking for at 100 grand if you can give me the terms that I'm looking for. So at 100 grand, what would it make this a deal? What if I kept the rehab at 14,400? Now all of a sudden, if I lower my interest rate to say, let's say, focus on, so I'm gonna lower this interest rate right here. I'm gonna highlight it just so you guys can follow along. I'm gonna highlight this thing in orange right here so you guys can follow. If I turn this into 5% interest rate, what does that do to my cash and cash? 5% turns to 8.3. If I do this 3.5%, boom. Okay. So now I can go to seller, hey, Mr. Seller, I can give you a 25% down if you're willing to seller finance it to me at 3.5% interest rate. Right? Very, very important for you to figure that out. 3.5% interest rate. Everything else is still constant. It's still 100 grand. And this is still a deal for me at $11.25 rent because my cash flow per month is $357 and my cash on cash return is still 10.2. Okay. Now let's say the seller says, well, no, I want a bigger down payment if I'm going to become the bank, blah, blah, blah. So you can say, well, what if I give you 35% down? Oops, 35. Boom. And now you can say, I will give you a principal only payment. Well, that's still a deal, right? You can give them 35 grand, 35, but your interest rate is now 0, which could be very advantageous. We can discuss that a little differently. Your rehab is still 14,400. You're still giving them 100 grand. It's still a 3-bedroom property at 11.25, but your cash flow would be $513 per month at 11.9% cash on cash return. So hopefully this was helpful for all of you, right? We went through a few scenarios, right? And again, this is not investment advice. I'm not saying you should have a 10% minimum cash on cash return. That depends on your strategy by market. Some people in California, they were like, man, if we could just break even because we see how much the properties appreciate every single year, man, I would stay there all day. Okay, but this might not be a very high appreciating market. So if you got these properties at 80 grand, that might work for you. If you had a very expensive rehab at 14,000, now all of a sudden you got to buy a 70 grand because the seller's not financing it. But if the seller decides to finance you at 3.5%, you can give them 25% down and you still be cash flowing $10,000. Or you can give 35% down and gas principal only payments. So all your payments are paying down the principal on the property. These are all the scenarios that you want to go through yourself in determining what set of terms you want to offer. And sometimes you might offer 2 or 3 options to the realtor or to the seller so that they understand, hey, you're not just lowballing them with a 70 grand over. You can say, hey, I'll give you the price that you want and give me the terms that will work for me. So hopefully this was helpful, everybody. This is why we do this every single day. We're putting in the reps. This is day 193. I'm going to 2 conferences next week, and I'm still going to be going live. So what's everybody's excuses for not going live, for not analyzing deals? I'm really hoping you guys would do this alongside with me, because this is why we do this. We are here to lift each other up, to help each other get better at analyzing deals, because if you want to buy 100, 1,000 properties, chances are you probably got to analyze 10 times that amount. And one of the best skills you can probably have is learning, one, how to creatively structure a deal that meets your own cash and cash return, like we did with a lot of scenarios today. And most importantly, how to spot what is not a deal, right? If you stay focused on the numbers and take emotions out of the transaction, that will much better prepare you for when the time comes for you to pull the trigger. And just remember, all it takes is 18 minutes a day for you to analyze a deal. And if you do that, you will be better at analyzing deals than 95% of the country. Wild, right? So you can do it too. And frankly, you can just copy my homework. Sometimes we get so scared, we don't know where to start. We think about all these steps, and I'm really hoping you could just look at the same property I looked at today using the same spreadsheet. Just DM me on Instagram, your email address at investwithkenthe. DM me there. My team will send you the spreadsheet that we use today tomorrow. That's it. Pick one part where I analyze the deal today and just say it better, explain it better, go into greater detail, or use a different analogy or a different metaphor. It doesn't matter what it is, but that's all you have to do. And before you know it, man, there's 192 videos on my YouTube. You can just copy all of that, and you just got a shortcut on 200 days of your life almost. This is why I do this. This is why we have this community. This is why we work together. This is why we lift each other up. You can, Vernin, you can DM me your email address, and my team will send the spreadsheet that we just used to you. So thank you for that question. I appreciate it. It really helps that to know that people are paying attention. So just DM me, copy my homework, and put it on your own YouTube channel. Because when the time comes and a partner asks you, hey, why do you think this is a deal? You can point them to your own YouTube channel and say, I know this is a deal because of the last 193 deals that I've looked at, and they were all not deals. Might that give your partner a little bit more confidence? Might that give you a little bit more confidence? I certainly hope so. And that's it. Just copy my homework. One of the easiest steps, take the friction out of the process. And all of a sudden, when you copy the homework enough times, you say it out loud enough times, you will absorb it. You have to. All right. Have an amazing time, everybody. Have an amazing night. Happy Wednesday. I hope you guys spend some quality time with your family and friends today. I got to go swimming with my daughter today, and it was great. It was great. So have an amazing day, everybody. I'll talk to you all tomorrow for day 194.